welcome to another episode of Odds is Damage here on the Phyrexian Mana YouTube channel. My name's Cyrus, and today we're going to be going over a deck tech for Blue Farm, which is a deck that was made by or submitted by Rivers May Cry to the cEDH decklist database. I'll link the deck below, but the deck does not have a primer, so I thought I'd do a little deck tech for it. Obviously, I am not the expert on the deck, but until we can get a primer from them, this will have to do for anyone who's interested in the deck and wants to give it a try. Blue Farm is basically a layered combo turbo Adnaz deck. This deck tech isn't going to go over every single card choice. I'm leaving out interaction, basically. You got a lot of counter spells. You've got a lot of tutors, and you have some land as the cards that I'm just not going to really be going over. I'm also using a version of the deck that I made on mythicblackcore.com using their design card function and some of the cards they had on there. I made PDFs, printed them out, cut them out, sleeved them up. So this is a fully proxy deck. I decided since this was going to be a fully proxy deck to do fancy different borders for cards, so hopefully it doesn't throw you off too much. Anyway, let's get going on it. So Blue Farm, trying to do the early Adnaz thing is definitely an option. It has lots of combo options that are all layered together in a way that's really fun to play. Your opening hands are going to determine which way you're going, what combo you're going for, or if you're going to go more of a value route or grind route by just casting an early Kraum or Tymna or whatever, just drawing a whole bunch of cards, finding your way into a combo from there, playing through stacks by just loading up your hand with interaction and combos and being able to present wins multiple turns in a row or even sometimes multiple times in the same turn. So that's kind of the general idea. Fast combo deck with two of the best grind value creatures in the format in the command zone. So I guess let's talk about them real quick first, in case you are unfamiliar, though I imagine you probably are not. This is Tymna and Kraum. Let me center myself here. Tymna obviously rewards you for hitting opponents. This deck isn't quite as good at it as some, mostly because it doesn't have green, a bunch of mana dorks. You don't have many creatures at all, really, but Tymna can get in there, and Kraum can as a flying haste creature. You don't see a lot of flying creatures that go over the 4/4 body that Kraum has, so they are able to get in pretty often. And you might be surprised how many cards you'll draw off of their ability. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. And it helps me pay really close attention to what's going on when I have Kraum in play. I'm always looking for that second spell. So if you are the kind of person that finds yourself wandering off mentally during other people's long turns, Kraum can be a kind of good reminder to pay attention. Let's move on to some of the more basic combos, I guess. None of them are too convoluted. We got nothing that's like Gitrog level or anything like that, but we do have a couple that are a little more complicated. Real quick, we are, of course, because we're in blue and black, running Thassa's Oracle and the Forbidden Tutors, Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact to empty our library and win the game off Thassa's Oracle. You can also use Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact to tutor, but in this deck, I don't really recommend it. In like a food chain deck, you can use these two with not as much to worry about because you don't mind exiling. You want to exile some of your other cards. In this deck, because it has a lot of combos, there is sort of some backup. You're probably not going to take out all of your combo pieces to all your different combos if you use one of these, but you could, so be careful. Next up, let's talk about the Adnaz and Peer into the Abyss cards. These are both cards that draw you a huge pile of cards, and you basically, they're referred to as one-card win cons because they usually will win you the game if you can resolve them. Main phase, Adnaz you can play as an instant. Peer is only a sorcery, but Adnaz at sorcery speed is completely viable as well most of the time. You're just picking up a huge volume of cards and then using mana rocks, which actually work better in this case than mana dorks. You are chaining together your mana rocks and your cards like your rituals, Culling the Weak, that's why it's a farm deck, it runs Culling the Weak. Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, all your different rituals and your mana rocks and your cards like Dockside Extortionist, which we're going to talk about more in depth in a minute. Chaining all those together to get the mana you need to basically do the Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation combo or some other combo as it presents itself in the pile of cards that you pick up. Because you're running Pier, you want to be careful when you're ad nausing to not go below 7 life, obviously, or below 8. I still think it's worth running. If you can't win from drawing half your deck, that's a bad place to be, and you probably weren't gonna get there that game anyway. I think, I don't know, maybe that's an uninformed statement. Regardless, Pier is really good. I have played it turn 2 before and won the game straight off of it, and that just feels real good. Next, let's talk about Dockside Extortionist. He does a lot of work in the format in general right now. It's hard to just not play artifacts or enchantments because they're some of the best cards in the format, so people aren't going the just don't play those route, meaning he almost always comes down for 4, 5, 6 mana, sometimes more if the game has gone to the grind. And yeah, so he can just generate you a ton of mana, really good with ad nause, can win on his own, or enable wins rather, not win on his own, but he can enable wins out of nowhere. We're also running some cheap bounce spells to get extra value out of the Dockside Extortionist. Snap is obviously free or mana positive because it lets you untap 2 lands as well. So you get the Dockside Extortionist back, untap the lands that you needed to play the card, play Dockside off of those lands or off his treasures or whatever, and then a bunch more. Winds of Rebuke can even become a win con with just the 2 of these and our friend Underworld Breach, which we're going to talk about in a minute as well. It enables all sorts of silly combos. Underworld Breach is going to let you play Winds of Rebuke over and over and over again as many times as you can afford to. It's making you mill cards each time, so it's not quite enough. You need to exile 3 cards to replay Winds of Rebuke with the Underworld Breach, but it's milling you 2 each time, so as long as you get a little bit of a loaded yard before you go for it, you can do it enough times to maybe hit your own Brain Freeze, which will then put a bunch of more stuff into your graveyard that can be used to continue Dockside looping until everyone's milled out, and then you pass the turn, or until you're milled out and you cast your own Thassa's Oracle. I guess this sort of segues into the next combo here. It's Intuition being used also as sort of a 1-card win con, because you can cast the Intuition and grab, well, you're going to end up grabbing all 4 of these cards most of the time. Obviously you can only grab 3 at a time, so let's say you grab these 3. Cast Intuition, you grab these 3. No matter what they give you, you're going to be able to cast Savine's Reclamation and pull out the Underworld Breach. So most of the time I'd say giving them the Savines is the thing to do, because then they have to cast it for 3 to bring something back, and then cast it for 5 to bring 2 things back, whereas if they just have to cast it for 5 to get the 2 things back, it's a little bit easier, I guess. I mean, it also depends on what kind of mana they have open. I'm not really going to go down into Intuition lines too well, because honestly I'm just not that familiar with them on the like being the person to choose the card side. I just know I usually end up with Savines or sometimes the Lion's Eye Diamond. Regardless, you are going to use Savine's Reclamation to get out Underworld Breach and Lion's Eye Diamond. With Underworld Breach, you can then cast Intuition again, filling your yard some more, and most importantly, getting Brain Freeze in there, probably Thassa's Oracle or Dockside as well. Then Underworld Breach, it just opens up so much possibility that you win the game off of it. You're either doing things like I just mentioned with the exiling, or milling everyone out docksiding for a bunch of mana. Maybe you get to cast Peer and pick up the rest of the things you need, or you're just going for it and brain freezing yourself until you have the Oracle win, or you're brain freezing everyone else if they stop that somehow. It's just incredibly versatile, can adapt to the situation very well, and you're basically always going to win if your intuitions go unmessed with. I think, a disclaimer again, that I'm no expert in this deck or in playing against this deck. There's definitely times that can be interacted with, but I think your best bet most of the time is going to be stopping the intuition, or letting them go all the way through the combo, cast the Thassa's Oracle, and then you cast an Angel's Grace in response so they can't win that turn. But even then, if they can find a way to recast Brain Freeze, they'll just mill everyone out and they won't need to take another turn. So yeah, it's incredibly versatile. This set of, what is it, 5, 6, 7 cards right here. Really, you can end up just churning through your whole deck, which gives you a whole bunch of interaction and other things to play with to do whatever you need. We also have a small Stealing Win Cons package. Praetor's Grasp and Mnemonic Betrayal both allow you to go through your opponent's decks, graveyards, all that stuff, and cast their cards. So that can mean their Dockside, it can mean their Oracle, their Demonic Consultations. Obviously, these cards very much scale with your knowledge of your meta. If you know you're playing into a Yisan, a Godo, and a Selvala, these aren't gonna get you very far, but I find that even just going into games blind, they usually have a target at the table that is good and will lead to one of your win cons. I mean, you grab someone's intuition, you can grab, any of the cards you've seen me mention before, you can take them from your opponents, or I mean, even if you're not going to use them for your own combo, you can just take them just to get them out of your opponent's deck and put them onto maybe a different line than they were going down before. Lastly, I just wanted to show off another little package the deck is running, which is Wheel of Fortune, Windfall, Time Twister, and a Notion Thief. I forgot to put the Power and Toughness on my Notion Thief, so he's got it written in pen in case you're wondering what's going on over there. Yeah, so this is just another sort of grind value play you can do. Notion Thief is also one of those cards that, I mean, sort of scales with how well you know your meta. You can, know that you can just wait and play him in response to someone else's wheel, or you can be more proactive and get him out and then wheel with your own card. And this will just set you up. I mean, obviously you'll have a whole bunch of cards in your hand, your opponents will all be on one card, and I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out how to put together a win from there. Something that's nice is even if you completely whiff on all your draws from a Notion Thief, Windfall, or whatever, you will still probably, or you'll probably pick up enough mana to just slam down your commanders, if nothing else, and you'll be in a position where your card advantage is just absolutely bonkers compared to your one card in hand opponents. So this is one of my favorite things to do in cEDH. It's just super rude and puts you in a great position. So that's about all I have to talk about the deck right now. I'm sure I missed something because I've probably played less than 10 games with this deck. I just think it's really cool. It's one that whenever I'm playing with other fast combo decks, I'm thinking about how I wish my commander maybe brought a little bit more to the table. Let's compare it to like Ukima Food Chain, another deck that I play. If you're in a position where you're casting a value Ukima, you're probably in a really bad place. Your hand has ran out of gas and you're not really going to be able to recover. Blue Farm, on the other hand, presents these two great value cards in the command zone, so even if your hand is not coming together, you've got two ways to draw cards just sitting there. They're just really good. They bring a lot to the table while the rest of your deck is just in combo and protect your combo and stop other people from winning mode full on. So yeah, as someone who likes to play fast combo decks, I like it a lot. As someone who likes to play control, I like it a lot. And as someone who likes to be able to pivot if I have to, which I wouldn't even necessarily describe myself as a player like that. I mostly like to play very straightforward fast combo decks, but the ability to pivot is really nice. I'm trying to weigh it a little more heavily as I play in games that end up going long, and I'm sitting there with Selvala going like, I have nothing to do. So yeah, this deck is pretty cool. I recommend you check it out. Don't let the lack of primer scare you. It's not that it's really complicated. I think it's just that all the combos are available in other decks, so you can kind of figure out how they all work. I think the person who wrote it just hasn't wanted to write it yet, and that's fine. Hopefully this video will get you there if you're wanting to play this deck. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in. I will talk to you again later. Let me know what other kinds of videos you'd like to see, maybe other decks you'd like to see deck techs for, whatever. I'm pretty open to anything. So yeah, leave some comments.